Okay, thank you so much, Zikora. Let's start with thanking everyone for joining in. My name is Joshua Daranijo, and I will be the moderator for today's session. I am also a lawyer, and I run my own law firm alongside my partners. Allen and Brooks is a startup law firm and we are specializing in so many areas of law. And most of the speakers today would address a lot of those areas. One thing we can tell you for a fact is we are so much excited to be a part of this project, and it focuses so much on the green wigs, especially those in the set that were affected by the pandemic. I mean, the set that was prolonged and they barely had any technical experience or externships as we normally do in the law school. What the Grey Discourse is trying to achieve today is try to, garner knowledge and expertise and experience from lawyers that have been in different sectors of the economy and practice to express their own experience so far, give us what we would normally not know or would never hear, give us a different perspective of how things are for practice. We have different sessions, but we'll be starting with the session that addresses what we call the primary goal of our profession, which is litigation. So for this session, we're going to have three main speakers, and I'm not sure if all of them are online. I think I can see Malachy. I'm not sure if I have, okay, I also have John Ambi online. So let me just give a brief introduction of our three speakers for this session. It's going to be as regards litigation and alternative dispute resolutions. We have for this session Malachy Odo. Malachy Odo is the head of chambers of Ayoola Co, and is also a committee member at the MBA Public Interest Litigation Committee. We also have John Ambi, who is the managing partner of Ambi Associates and the chairman MBA Kafancha branch in Kaduna State. We have Chidubem Umeche, who is a partner at Bawa Negodalo, specialty being commercial, litigation, and arbitration. Those are our three panelists for this session. And I would like to just get started with John Ambi and Malachy Odo, who are currently on the call. I'm not sure I can. Sorry, is Chidubem on the call? I'm not sure he's on the call. Okay, so, John and Malachy, let's just get started. Thank you for making time out to join us today. Okay, I think it's fine if I just, use my video also. I'm very sure they would love to see our lovely faces. So the first question I would like to ask, from your expertise, from your experience, what is still going to make a young wig or a new litigation? Please bear in mind that I have no statistics to back this up, but the majority of us, leaving law school, starting out the profession, are more interested in other aspects of law. So for you guys who have still stuck to the primary, practice, what is still appealing about litigation? Let's start with that question. And I would like John to go first, then we'll have Malachy.
Okay.
Hello, John. Okay, I'm not sure John can hear me. Malachy, would you like to go first while we hope John reconnects with us?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Nice to have you, Malachy. So as I said, you heard the question, right?
Yes, I heard it. I heard the question.
Okay. John is back. One moment. John, please let Malachy go first.
Okay.
We lost you for a moment and you're still muted. So let Malachy go. Malachy, go ahead, please.
Yes, I think you got it quite correct that most graduates of law school these days are more interested in other areas of law. It is rare for you to see anyone these days saying, I want to go into, litigation-based practice and all that. And anyway, you can't blame anybody. But those of us who have stuck to this area of law, I wouldn't say someone like me it wasn't a decision I made. It was where I found myself. Because I remember after leaving the law school and after NYSC, one of the first law firms I worked with, is a litigation-based law firm. So it grew on me.
Okay.
And then over time, you also see that litigation can be fun. People see it is tasking, it is stressful and all that, but nothing is easy out there, whether you are doing corporate-based practice or anything. So you have to choose. I would say you have to choose your pain. So you have to choose the one you can live with. And litigation is not that bad as people think or might think it is. I know it can be the slow process of our courts and everything and all that, but it's still a good area of law. And by the way, litigation is lucrative also. So when you when you go at it for a while, you garner the experience and all that, why not? It can take you home. What you get from litigation can take you home, just like what you have in either your transactional lawyer or whatever. So all I'm just going to say is, for some of us in litigation, the experience has not just been bad. We've had both sides of it. It can be stressful, it can be all that, but we still thank God it's still fun, and we learn and we keep improving, and that's just it.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Malachy. Let's have John give his own experience. And please, what we're trying to do is, you are trying to sell litigation to us, okay?
Yes,
us being inclusive of me. I'm a commercial lawyer. I'm a transact. So if you were to win me over to the litigation side, what are you going to tell me, John? Malachy, I have to say, you tried, but I'm not convinced. So let's have John start it. What are you going to tell me to make me consider litigation? Because I'm going to also argue against when you guys are done. So let's have you, John.
Okay.
Unmute yourself, please. John, you're still muted. You're still muted.
Yeah. I think I'm unmuted now.
Thank you. Yes.
Hello?
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Well, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I think, first of all, I must say that we're all products of our environment. So oftentimes, whatever you find yourself doing is probably what the environment has to offer for you. So in the case of litigation, particularly my own personal experience, I think fresh out of the law school, what I had available to do was litigation. I didn't plan to stay in litigation for this long. However, over the course of time, I found out that litigation had a lot to offer, and a lot of things, I came across, opened my eyes to the fact that at the end of the day, it's all about making ends meet. But not just making ends meet, but it's also the fact that you love what you're doing. So for me, over time, I developed interest, particularly in civil litigation. And for now, I think that I would rather do nothing else other than that. For the young weeks, I know that times are changing. Your commercial or corporate practice. But I would think that for any fresh lawyer, a couple of years in litigation would sharpen your wit and your skills, and then you can take on the world. So that's my take on litigation.
Okay, thank you so much, John. So, I mean, as I said, I would definitely argue against. And what I can take from both of you is the fact that it was based on conditions, starting out as a lawyer. And that's fine. That's understandable. As you said, the environment matters. But the question I would like to further continue with is, can we really say litigation is still lucrative? That was what Malachy said. And I just took note of it. It was like a pinch to me. I'm like, are you sure? Because if you're not in the space where you've, grown reputation as a lawyer that wins cases in court, or you're not the likes of the SANs who are the ones representing petitions when it comes to election petitions, where can we say litigation is really lucrative? I was in a seminar about a year or two ago. It was an AJL seminar organized by the NBA, and they were talking about how the average lifespan of a case in Nigeria is about 7 years, considering the fact that it goes all the way up to Supreme Court. So the question I ask again is: are we really saying, or are we sure that the young wigs still have a part to play to get the best out of litigation, or is it too late for them? Malachy, would you like to respond?
Yes, I would like to respond. I want to believe that whichever aspect of law you choose, you will not, I don't think you will hit a gold mine, except you are very lucky, almost immediately. So these things takes time. So what you have to do in litigation is have a niche for yourself, have a standard. And over time, I believe over time, let me just put this in pidgin, okra withdraw over time. So I don't think, you think you just start off and then within a year, you're already a multi-millionaire. Why not? It can happen for some people, but for some of us, it didn't happen that way. But you just have to have a standard, keep improving yourself, carve a niche for yourself, and why not? Hard work pays. And over time, your name, people, by the time you win 1 or 2 cases and all that, people will know about you and your client base will grow. So I don't want anybody to believe that it's, of course, and if you go out there, I don't want to mention names. There are lawyers doing so well, which we know these are litigation-based lawyers. And apart from the ones you hear their names in the media and all that, there are a lot of lawyers out there that I know. And if I mention their name, you may never ever know, but they're doing so well. And these are litigation lawyers. And all you need to do is just drive into any high court in any day and all that. And you see, like you will know that these guys they're not begging for anything. They're doing well and they're all litigators. And so I don't want the young wigs to think there is no hope here. You have to kill yourself before you make it in this litigation aspect of law. No, just like every other aspect of the law, you have to give your best, you have to work hard, and over time, I believe success will come. So that's that.
That's true. That's true. I mean, it's a principle that runs across anything you do in life. Patience, consistency. I agree with you on that. John, any advice as to how you can, convince us litigation is still lucrative to the young wig?
Well, the little I have to say
I can see how you're smiling.
The little I have to say is that as long as there are human beings and as long as we interact as human beings, there are bound to be conflicts.
Of course.
These conflicts will probably at the end of the day resolve into people going to avenues for dispute resolution, maybe courts and arbitral tribunals and the likes. So the mere fact that this is a truism in life means that till thy kingdom come, litigation will continue to be with us. Yes. So for that reason,
so true.
Why shy away from it? So
true.
From my few years of experience, I just believe that litigation is here to stay. It's going nowhere. As much as other aspects of the legal practice are expanding, but litigation is the mother of them all. So for young wigs, don't be deceived into abandoning litigation for other lucrative areas of practice in court. litigation is the foundation. Yes. Being a
Okay.
litigation lawyer does not stop you from practicing other aspects of law. So that's my take on that.
So true. Thank you so much for that. Before we ask the next question, I have been following the chat box just to keep it interactive. I think you guys have an advocate, and the person is making it very clear that I should be very respectful to litigators. Please understand, and every lawyer is a potential litigator. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against litigation. I'm just trying to ask the valid questions for the listeners, because our target audience are the young lawyers, the potential lawyers, the ones that are still waiting for their results to come out. So all this is, addressing, helping people choose a career path, entering a profession. I believe every lawyer that went through the Nigerian law school should be able to enter court and represent and, be able to speak out for themselves as a lawyer, as a litigator. All I'm just trying to say is, in trying to make a decision on what path you want to choose, be sure you know the pros and cons, know the facts and figures. That being said, before I ask this question, you guys have to understand, I'm just being as sincere as possible. You have said litigation is, wonderful, it's lucrative. Now, what about the fact that while other lawyers in other aspects are moving on with their lives, the strike that Jusun is currently going through has affected litigators? What can we make of this? Just like the pandemic that hit us hard last year, and we're still recovering from it. This situation that we have a strike that has gone on for roughly over a month, I believe, that has affected litigators. How can we address it as a profession, so that, because a lot of people don't have a source of income anymore because of their major practice being litigation. So how do you think this can be addressed, and what do you advise young wigs to do in diversifying their skills? Any advice to that? And what has been your experience since the strike started? John, would you like to go first? Then Malachy goes after you.
Yeah, well, I think one of the first things I learned when I started litigation was the fact that whatever fees you earn, you should consider it as your pension, your gratuity, and your terminal benefits. Yes. So because of that reason, and in view of the fact that, of course, the economy itself is uncertain, so whatever fees you earn, whatever earnings you make, you try to make savings. Not just savings, but try to invest in other avenues that could also fetch you extra income. For instance, I know that the professional rules allows us to do very little things like farming and all that. I'm not suggesting it for the young wigs, but I'm just saying that you have to out of the box and find an alternative source while also doing that, so that in times like this, when you have 6 or 7 or 4 so weeks to be at home because of Jusun strike, you have something to fall back to, whether by way of savings or by way of investments.
Yes. Thank you so much for that, John. Because I just wanted you to say that, because if it comes from me now, they will say I'm accusing, I'm attacking litigators. But he's right. You need to definitely understand the fact that the Nigerian economy is unstable, and with this now unprecedented, Johnson has kept litigations out of court. So you have to have other sources of income. As you clearly stated, the RPC makes it clear that one of the other professions or vocations you can involve yourself in is agriculture. And people have to stop seeing agriculture as what our fathers used to do back then. There is an innovation of agriculture called agribusiness, and that is a big sector. It's one of the practices we even practice here at Allen and Brooks, and we don't take it for a joke. So there's big money in agribusiness. You don't have to see yourself being the one on the farm. So we have to be diverse as lawyers. Malachy, what's your view on this strike by Jusun, and how does it affect you so far? Or how has it affected you so far?
Yeah, it's been tough. It's been tough. But a lawyer, just like Mr. John said, a lawyer, even without a strike, the Nigerian economy has been tough for some time. And it's not been easy for anyone. So I've been, luckily for me, I have a wife who before the strike, when things were going well, I I had that initiative to invest in her business. And then?
That's good. Hello?
Now that things are
Malachy,
waiting to reap, I'm reaping the, yes, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm trying to reap the fruits of my investments in her business and then surviving from there and then doing other things as well. Of course, that you a litigation-based lawyer does not mean everything has to do with court. Lawyers do other things.
Important. That's important to note.
Yeah, and that's why when you grow in the business, when you grow in the profession, you know, and you have that client base, clients have different needs, and all of them cannot be litigation-based and all that.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we are surviving with these other clients who doesn't have anything to do with courts for now, and I believe it's been tough, but that's just it. And I also want to say this Jusun strike has really affected. Yes. Let us not just think it has affected only litigation-based lawyers, because even transactional lawyers, it has affected.
Okay.
What of those that have to obtain court-ordered meetings and all that? All these things you have to still fall back to the court. So it has really messed everyone up.
It's true. It's very true.
Yeah. So
from what I understand now, the notary public guys are the ones, you know, making the best of this opportunity.
Yes. So, but we are hopeful that it will soon be called off, and then I hope it would have been worthwhile. You know, at the end of the day, we'll say yes, that we suffered all this for something good and all that. So.
Yes. Thank you so much. I have to say that I appreciate the honesty, because we want it to be as open as possible. Yes, we're talking to ourselves. We don't want forming. We want to open up about the issues we're dealing with. And I appreciate how far you guys are very open, because it really is going to help people understand the struggles, the challenges, opportunities available. So I like the fact that you both have addressed the fact that you both use the word that really, you know, stands keen to note: investment. Have other sources of income, invest in other businesses, invest in self-development. And being a litigator does not mean all your clientele in courts or courts, you know, matters. Have real estate matters. You can have, you know, tenancy matters. Just make sure you are diverse. So that's very worthy of note. A very important question we're going to ask every speaker today and tomorrow. Please take note, we're still going to be here tomorrow, 3 p.m. to 5:30 or 6. To every speaker, a very important question. And I'm going to give you a backstory to the question. A lot of people come out of law school anticipating their results, and they think a pass or a second class or a third class or whatever beyond a first class or a second class upper is a death sentence. The question we have to ask today, and this is not in any way to, you know, belittle those that come out with first class. We really honor them and we respect them. So far, has the grade you graduated with affected the opportunities that were made available to you? And we want you to be as honest as possible. Help us to understand what really are the pros and cons of not coming out to the first class or 2-1. Malachy, would you like to go first?
Okay. Yeah, I can go first. I wouldn't, since we are being frank,
please.
I came out with a 2-2.
Be honest as much as possible.
I came out with a 2-2, both in the university and in the law school.
Okay.
And I wouldn't sit here today and tell you it has not affected me in one way or the other. Every ambitious person wants to grow. And then there are job opportunities that come out. I have my uncles and aunties in some of these oil companies that say, yeah, this opportunity wants you to apply. And I tell them, when they send it to me, I just see 2-1 and all that. And I write them back saying, I made a 2-2. And they say, oh, we didn't know. And then they move on. And I believe they give it to someone who is better qualified for that opportunity. So I think no one will claim that coming out with a 2-2 or pass will not affect you in one way or the other. But then what can you do? You have to move on with what you have. And what someone like me has done is, when you come out with such a grade as 2-2, you just have to improve yourself.
Yes.
You have to go for further studies and all that, you know, go for a master's, attend courses and all that. And then at the end of the day, you can still get to where our brothers and sisters who made first class are. So it's for a start, it can affect you because you are not first choice in terms of good law firms who are looking for guys, and then some of these multinational companies, you are not their target. But in the long run, when you work on yourself, when you improve on yourself, invest on yourself, you will still get there. And in the end, you can look back with no regrets. So that's that for me.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Malachy. I agree with you perfectly. You must not let it weigh you down. You use the opportunity to, develop yourself and, bring out the best out of it. And yes, there'll be a bit of disappointment along the way because the world we live in is always going to, have qualifications and, what we call, qualifications. They would rate you by qualifications, but you have the bigger duty of proving your potential. John, how about you? Is John with us? I think okay, John, kindly unmute and let us know how you feel about grades and graduating with, a first class or 2-1. You're not mute, you're still muted. You're still muted, by the way.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm unmuted now. Hello?
Okay. Yes, you are. You're unmuted now.
Yeah. Malachy has spoken a whole lot of what was actually on my mind. I would simply like to add that we're in a very competitive world. So even if you all have the first class, the 2-1s, you still have to stand out if you really, really want to make it in this harsh competitive world we find ourselves in. So for young wigs or aspiring lawyers, I think that regardless of the fact that you make good grades in school, you should strive to do something that stands you out. Because at the end of the day, that's the edge you have amongst your peers.
Yes. Of course. Yeah. Thank you so much for that, John. Yeah. Personal skill is very important. I think that's one of the things that make people stand out. I tell people that much more than being a student in the university and the law school, be ready to be a student of life, because life is going to show you another aspect entirely. And that's why I tell people who even came out with first class to not feel entitled just because they came out with first class. You have to be ready to explore, be open-minded. And that's where I would like us to round off on that note as to, how your grades affect, you coming out to opportunities. Before we conclude this session, I would like us to address the alternative dispute resolution options. That was supposed to be majorly by Chinedum, but since it's not on the call, I would still like to know your opinions. Even though you're litigators, what are your views on ADRs, especially things like arbitration, mediation, negotiation, and co? I personally, I was inducted into the Nigerian Institute of Arbitrators, and so far it's not been such an exposing experience for me because I personally have not made myself available. So I'm not going to blame the institute. I've not made myself available to so many opportunities. I have had interest in other aspects of law, like technology law, media, and agribusiness, as I mentioned earlier. But I asked myself a question, even from the people I discuss with and the people I observe in that space, has it not become a pseudo litigation process? Because arbitration seems to be so rigid and not even mainstream as we would expect. So what is your view on alternative dispute resolution? As you had said earlier, this is our primary practice, litigation. But do these ADRs really solve the problem where litigation stops to solve? John, what's your view?
Well, let me start with arbitration. I think it's a global concern that arbitration is becoming more legalistic like litigation. However, what stands it out is the fact that let's say typical of Nigeria, the time you spend in litigating cases. Yes, for arbitration, you wouldn't spend such length of time, and clients, particularly commercial clients, want quick results. Yes. But back to the issue of the space for arbitration. I quite agree with you that the space is quite small. Yes, it's so to speak a cycle that you would have to break into, but that's what we all strive to do, to be amongst the elite or amongst the top. So it shouldn't discourage you to try as much as possible to play your own part. Someday, with hard work, with trainings, with personal development, you find yourself in the inner cycle, and then the rest will be history. So I don't think anything comes easy, yes, in any sphere of life. As to other aspects of ADR, like mediation and expert evaluation, I think that these are areas that are gradually evolving. And for young lawyers, I think they will do well to cast, focus there, because with time you find out that if you start early, at a particular point you would have been steeped into it, that you of course become an authority. So there's no harm in pursuing litigation as well as these other alternatives. So that's my take.
Thank you so much for that, John. I would like to hear, Malachy, what's your view on ADRs and especially arbitration?
Yeah, arbitration. Arbitration has. I've had clients. Okay, let me just give an example. Arbitration has become tedious. It has also, and we all know, arbitration too can be very costly, very, very costly. So when lawyers prepare agreements and they put this arbitration clause and all that, clients most times don't get the picture. They think when they have disagreements, you just, within a space of a week or two, everything will be resolved and at a cheaper cost, because that's what we keep happening on that. Litigation is costlier than arbitration and all that. So, and I remember when I was called to the bar, one of the first cases in the law firm I remember there were two partners. They had a disagreement over, I think they had this building. Someone paid, a tenant paid a rent of almost 200 million in VI. And they had other disagreements that they had. So they refused to share the money between themselves. Now they fell back to the arbitration clause in the agreement. And I remember then we filed the processes, we did everything, an arbitrator was appointed, and they told them to pay a cost of about 20 million. Do you know that we never hear from them again? They resolved their, according to them, they resolved their differences immediately, because they said, why should we give these guys 20 M? How much are we fighting over? So arbitration, so all I'm going to say about arbitration is, why not? I think it's a good area. It's an area that will keep evolving and developing. And for young lawyers out there, I think it's an area that you should pick interest in, because that's where the world is actually going. And you lose nothing by trying to develop your skills in that area. You lose nothing at all. Yeah. And then for other aspects of ADR, like mediation, especially if you're a lawyer, for example, based in Lagos and into litigation, you can't escape mediation, because most times when the case comes to court, the judge most times and not will tell you, you guys should go and sit down somewhere and resolve this thing. I've looked at your processes. I think this is something you can resolve. You guys should go and sit down and then get back to me. Most times, this is what happens. Then they have that their multi-door courthouse where the court can even order you guys to go and report back to the court. So you need to, so long lawyers need to develop that skill. It is very important, and you can't do without it in this era that we are in, so that it will help. It helps save time, it helps save cost and all that. And at the end of the day, your clients will be happier for it. So that's my take on that.
Yes. Thank you so much for that, Malachy. That's so true. You're right about that. Lagos, as you know, served as a pace setter for encouraging people to settle out of court, either through the multi-door courthouse or the citizen mediation court or center. It's so impressive that they are encouraging people to, settle issues with more informal ways than, the structure of litigation. While we, consider rounding off this session and have our keynote speaker, Honorable Justice, the Chief Judge of Borno State, is about to join us. I would like to just have you guys give your closing statements. And please, I don't mean closing statements in the sense of you're in a court. Just let us know what your best advice in your years of experience is to the young lawyers listening. And to even me myself, as I said earlier, I'm a student of life. So Malachy, go first. What would closing statements to us as we learn from your experience?
We are all learning from each other. Nobody. So my closing. So all I'm going to say is just don't lose hope, especially for young lawyers who are not from from rich homes, from rich backgrounds. Please, it is not easy out there. Nobody should tell you it is easy. It is not. But when you get out there, focus on what you want to do and what you want to achieve. If you want to go into litigation, find a good law firm that you know in that area and give it a try. Keep at it. And after a while, I promise you, you will have good stories to tell. So that's that for me.
Thank you so much for that, Malachy. We really appreciate those kind words and seasoned words. John, would you like to go next?
Well, the little advice for young lawyers I have is that I think we're in an age of so much information out there. So find what interests you, carve a niche for yourself, be consistent in learning about what you really love. And then, of course, you find someone who will mentor you in that particular aspect of the legal practice that you are interested in. And then you can never know, the sky will be your limit. And also pray.
Of course.
Because I believe we're all believers, so you can't take away the part of faith. So be prayerful.
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you so much, Malachy. Thank you so much for the session, both of you. We've learned a lot. We understand that litigation is the primary practice. We understand that every lawyer should have a basic, a basic understanding or foundation as a litigator, even if they want to diversify into other things. We understand that even with that understanding of litigation, please don't dwell on it too much. Make sure to spread your wings, because now that we're on strike, we must have the diversity and the capacity to work beyond just the courts, gain clientele in other aspects of law, and be patient. These things take time. So thank you so much for this session. Before we move on to the next session, which is going to be the keynote speaker, my Lord Justice, I would like to just have one of the organizers, Zikora, say a few words. Zikora, over to you.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. How are we doing? I'm very glad. Hello, can we hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can hear you.
Everybody, how are we doing? I really appreciate our presence. From the group, I can see that we have about 30 people sitting here. And I'm sorry that we started a little later than we planned to be. His Lordship is having some problems joining us right now. So I'm just waiting to give him a few minutes for him to join us. He just sent me an email, which I think is best for me to drop in the comments group so that it will not be like telling stories and stuff like that. But yes, he sent an email and he's supposed to be on his way joining us immediately. So before that, a lot of people have been asking me, so I'll just answer a few questions that a lot of people have asked me concerning the sessions and how they are spaced. Please, we did not specify on the flyer how the sessions will go. The first session, as we just had, we're just having a mentorship conversation, just open conversation about litigation and how it is in practice and how different it is from school and what you've learned in the university and in the law school. Immediately after that, we're supposed to have the session by my Lord, the Chief Justice of Borno State, Justice Kashim Ibrahim. Justice Kashim Ibrahim, we chose him because he's one of the most forward-thinking chief justices in Nigeria. I think Borno State had the first online hearing during the lockdown period. So that was why his lordship was supposed to be opening this event. And immediately after that, we're supposed to have a session on music and sports law. I was having a conversation earlier, and there is the assumption that Music practice is just basically intellectual property and a few of speaking English here and there. But I think it's much more than that. It's same as sports practice. And some of the people that we have chosen for sports practice, I think I saw on the group, Beverly Agbakoba-Onyejianya has joined us. Agbakoba has joined us. She's partner at Olisa Agbakogba & Co. We also have Tosin Akinyemi. He is principal partner at Sportlicitors. Sportlicitors is a law firm that is dedicated exclusively to sports and nothing else. We also have Nky Otike-Odibi. She is lawyer at, she's counsel at Ebony Life TV. So that's it for that session. Immediately after that session, we are going to have the final session, which is on freelancing. So I will just invite the moderator once again to read the citation for my lord, the Chief Justice of Borno State. He just joined us, Justice Kashim Zannah, OFR. So
okay, thank you so much for that, Zikora. Thank you so much for that, Zikora. My Lord Justice, thank you for joining us. I will just take a moment to introduce you by reading file, and then we'll on your conversation with you, sir. My Lord.
Yes, I'm with you. Sorry,
One
I'm
moment.
late. I'm just rushing in to join.
Thank you so much for your time, my Lord. Honorable Justice Kashim Zannah, Chief Judge of Borno State, Nigeria, appointed Judge of the High Court of Borno in Nigeria in 1997 and was appointed as a Chief Judge in 2006. He is a member of the National Judicial Council of Nigeria. He is currently engaged in a major national judicial reform undertaking as the chairman of the National Judicial Council Judicial Information Technology Policy Implementation Committee, JITCOM for short, that is in the process of automating court processes in Nigeria. He sits on the National Judicial Council Committee on the implementation of transparency and anti-corruption policies and the Corruption Trials Monitoring Committee. Justice Zannah is Deputy President at the International Organization for Judicial Training and sits on the boards of several international bodies in the field of law and justice, such as the International Society for the Reform of Criminal Law, the Commonwealth Judicial Education Institute, and the International Institute for Judicial Excellence at The Hague. He was awarded the Medal of the International Society for the Reform of Criminal Law in 2012 and the United States National Center for State Courts Distinguished Award in 2013. Great to have you, my Lord Justice, and we're really, truly honored to have you join us today. We would like to hear from you, your own experience because you are the only speaker in our list of speakers who is on the bench. So the first question we'd like to ask you, because as we said before you joined us, our target audience are the young wigs and the wigs to be, the potential wigs. My Lord Justice, what is the career path to becoming an honorable justice of the judiciary? And I dare to say, the first judge of a state or even the CJN. How does that happen? And what are the challenges? What does it take to get there, sir? My Lord.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. And you're telling me that it's for new weeks. Actually, but for that fact, I wouldn't be here. It's like I've made myself a promise that I'll never, if I can, refuse anything that is like mentoring or encouraging the young ones. It's a promise I made myself because it was done for me too. And without such, probably I wouldn't be where I am. So, and usually the promises I make to myself out of honor are more binding even than promises that I have not uttered. So I'm quite aware that it's a young lawyer's forum. That is the very reason why I am here. In fact, one of your organizers who got in touch with me would have told you the tightness of my program, how bad it was for me to be able to do it. I even sent him some of the programs. I just came out of a program organized by the Council of Europe for Justices and Judges of the Supreme Court. They call it the Court of Cassation of Turkey, where I was one of the 3 speakers. And then I had to dash down and attend the wedding of the son of a bosom friend of mine. And then I now have to dash back in here to join the meeting. So it's a day I ordinarily would have just said flatly, no, I can't make it, it's too tight. And then even after this one, I still have others. So I know it is for young lawyers, and that is why I accepted to do it. And I've been informed quite all right that what is expected of me is like just to talk, not a formal presentation, and on like the path to being a judge, like you said, since you prioritized that one and raised it. So probably I will answer that one. The formal path is you qualify and get the constitutional requirement of 10, 12, 15, and then depending on which court you are aspiring to, and then it's advertised, either you're nominated or you express interest, and then you go through the process, you're selected, and the JSC, the Judicial Service Commission, that is at the state level, or committee at the FCT, or a federal one, acts on the nomination actually of the chief judge, who shortlists, tables it before them, and then out of the shortlist, they shorten it further, and then they to move it further. In the case of the, from the JSC, now it goes to the National Judicial Council, where at least 2 candidates are recommended. They now do an interview 2 of those candidates, and then they pick one who is most suitable. And then they also again now make their recommendations, depending on the court. If it's a state court, then they now make the recommendation to the governor. If it's a federal court, and then the appointment is to, let's say, the Federal High Court, to the president, and then where the president approves, the person is appointed. Or in this case of the state, where the governor approves, and then that's the end. So the hierarchy of the chain is like a judge nominates you, which is the usual one, but changes were brought whereby you can express interest, and then these are collected by the chief judge. He goes through, there are guidelines, anybody who is known to be of shady character or something like that, he weeds out. So many other considerations, and then reduces a short list. The NJC seats, the JSC of the state or of the federal or the FCT seat on it, shorten the list further, and then send it to the NJC. National Judicial Council also now sits on it, does the interview, gets a report from the interview committee, and then picks one, sends to the president or the state governor, who then appoints. So that's the formal path of it, the years, and then going through that process. Now, the other significant part of it, that is how do you then become, that only shows the process, but how do you then become the one who was chosen at the end of it? Now that I think is subsumed in what may be your subsequent questions on advice as to the path to follow, because I've been told that advice is what I will give. So if that is a question next, then when it comes, I will now elaborate on that part of it. How to be the one chosen.
My Lord Justice. Yeah. Thank you so much, my Lord Justice. And that's why I'm going to go further to ask, because we understand the procedure because we were taught in school. So what are the practical steps you took? What are the informal things, the things that are not on the book, that are not in the paper, are not in the textbooks that you did? That's the first question.
You see,
my Lord,
it's good to be, especially in this kind of situations, it's good to be very honest.
Yes, we want that.
The path I took probably may not lead you there. The path I took was to run away from the bench. That's what I was doing. I was running away from the bench. And then still I ended up here. So if you want to be, well, how come? Okay, that's the reality of it. My ambition, my life wish was first in university, for example, was to be a politician. Then as I finished university and came out and saw the real politics, the way they were playing it, I said, no. This one is not for me. I told myself the truth. So I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to practice law as a lawyer, as a barrister. It didn't matter whether I became senior advocate. At that time, it was not compulsory. There were big lawyers who were not SAN. There was no problem about that. It wasn't that to be a good lawyer, and even then, more of like to be a lawyer who is perpetually poor, because all I was interested, even in campus and all this thing, was to fight for the downtrodden, this kind of a thing. And if there was anybody who was a comrade, and this guy, I was a student union leader. So, so that was the path I wanted to follow. But I was more or less conscripted. One day I was sitting in my, number one, I went into the Ministry of Justice because I knew that it was important to know the workings of the prosecution before you start fighting them. So I was there before I could even go out and also go to the practice. I was sitting on my desk one day when the secretary of the JSC, at that time, my friend, I was just a young lawyer of maybe 3 or 4, 5 years, I don't know. And then you come and find the secretary of the JSC waiting for you. I was so intimidated.
Wow.
And he just said, okay, are you Kashim Zannah? I said, yes, sir. So can you meet me in the office? And he just left. Yeah, why did he do that? Because he has been saying and I refused to go. So he knew that my culture and all these things, if he came and called me, I would still go. So that was all he did. He just said, okay, yes, okay. Can you see me, meet me in the office? So I later went to the office and he said, well, the chief judge said, I wish to take you at this thing and invite you to be part of the interviews, persons to be interviewed for magistrate.
Wow.
I didn't want to be one. So and then by our culture and upbringing, as you know, Africans, we're all the same. You don't refuse elders easily. So, and I thought I was very smart.
Exactly.
So I went to my father because I could now say, my father said, let me not follow that path. You know, that would be an excuse even for any elder. You can't be more elder than your father. So I went and told my father, this is what, because he has always been telling me about the consequences of what will happen to a judge if you become a judge, if he does this in the hereafter, he is going to be burnt, he is going to be this. So I was very sure my father would be opposed to it. So I was very comfortable when I told him. I said, oh yeah, okay, so the chief judge, so person, we know him very well. He's a very honest person, very upright. He did this. So if he asks you, then that means good. I said, sir, but you've always been telling me about judges going to hell and all this. I said, why did you go and read law if you don't want to? And if you don't want to be along with such a person who is reputed for honesty, then you must be leading a dishonest life. So to cut a long story short, it just didn't work. It backfired. And then I said, okay, let me please them for some time. And then I realized, now that is the important part for you to understand. And then I realized that this was actually the profession for me. I just didn't know. Along the line, like I told you, initially I was even thinking of politics. But as I came out and saw politics for what it was, I realized it wasn't for me. Now, the other professions I was considering too, including practice, I didn't know at that time, but later with wisdom, with years, I came to realize in this country, the only place where I could fit and be tolerated probably is on the bench. So here I am. So this is the path I followed. And for those who want to be passionately a judge, I don't prescribe the path of running away. There's not always only one solution to these things. Yeah. If I had known, if I had known what I know today, I would have also followed the path. I would have pursued being a judge. No, make no mistake about that. It's because I didn't know at that time that this is the profession, the one that suits me most. All that I've been hoping to do, wishing to do, I couldn't have achieved. I wouldn't have done them. I wouldn't have been able to free any downtrodden person who is oppressed. I wouldn't have been able to do all of these things the way I'm able to do it now. Now, with one stroke of rule, one regulation, one policy, I can free, without even knowing them, so many people from oppression. If I were practicing at the bar, maybe not making noise, but I may be able to get 1 or 2 out, but not in the numbers. So you see, so if you are determined, pursue the path, and that is the path of sincerity, be upright, do the right thing. Yes, I know, I don't want to deceive you. There is all this issue of whether you need a godfather, whether you need this thing. Well, I think if you need a God, if you have a God, you don't need a godfather. Rely on God. Rely on God.
That's very erudite, my lord.
Once you have God, don't qualify it with any other thing. God, full stop. Not Godfather, no. So, but
that's quite profound, my Lord Justice.
And then secondly, be passionate about it. If you just want to be a judge because you think it's a glamorous thing or anything, you will not make a good judge. You will just be a frustrated judge or a bad judge or anything. Yes, you have to be passionate about it. The pains of being judge should be pleasure for you. Then you will enjoy it. And you will make a success of it.
Thank you so much, my Lord Justice. I have to, take off from where you stopped. I can understand from what you're saying that it comes from a place of selflessness and service to mankind and the society. So based on popular demand, young lawyers would like to know, is the bench lucrative financially wise? Because, we all know that the world we live in is quite transactional. You need money to survive. Yeah. So working your way up to the judiciary, are you earning enough to take care of you and your family in the Nigerian economy?
This is a very difficult question to answer because I'm feeling the weight of maybe there's some young man there I may mislead and the consequences may be grave. But I'll put it this way. I think I've already told you, unless you are able, you love it, you are committed to doing justice, so much so that the pains of it feels like pleasure to you, don't go in. I think I already said that. So,
yes, you did.
If you come in and if you're broke or if because it doesn't pay, it will pain you. It may not work for you. But if you are the type who, whatever you earn, if you don't get certain things in a certain way, like if injustice makes you lose your appetite and makes you sleepless when you are helpless to correct it, this kind of person you are, then by the time you come in, whether it financially is rewarding or not, it won't even bother you. So long as 1 or 2, it's not that you will correct everything even here as a judge, no, but the 1 and 2 that you're able to do the incremental will give you so much satisfaction that you will cope with this thing. But then as a practical arithmetical question, does it pay? I don't think it's as bad as, or as is any different from any other vocation. You see, one of the things we do is, okay, you are in the bench. I've had discussions with many of my colleagues. It's like, okay, we are not having this in labor persons, it's also happen. Yeah, but what guarantee do you have that if you had followed that other path, you will also be at the top of it?
True.
Or like one of the successful ones there. Because in any line you take, there are those who have financial reward or found the financial reward, and there are those who are also struggling, right? Like in the bar now,
yes.
You have lawyers who have private jets. You also have who can hardly repair their jalopy. In the same class, same path they followed. So just because the path you followed has not led you to the financial reward that you're thinking, there's no guarantee that the other path would have led you to that few who get that ultimate reward. So Yes, it's inadequate.
Right.
That one I can say. The pay is inadequate, but it shouldn't even be a consideration when you're coming in because it can change. And particularly, I'm unsuitable. I must thank God. I come from a background where I've been shielded from some of these things, even when the pay was bad. Like as a magistrate, a time was when we did the calculation. My entire salary could only buy me a bag of rice. And then what remains can hardly transport it home. That's all for the entire month. So, see how it was. But then I had a car, I had a house to myself. I could even give help others because of the circumstances of my birth. So I'm really unqualified to know these things. That's why I'm very careful sometimes, even when it comes to some of these actions in judging others. I said, look, you have not worn the shoes that they have been wearing. Be careful.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
So
yes.
I think I'm trying to be as objective as possible.
Yes.
I don't mislead anybody.
My Lord Justice, that was very wonderful of you. As we are about to round off this session, there's one more question we would ask, and I would just like to give, a premise.
Go ahead.
I would like to give a premise to it because we are also working with time. We clearly stated before you joined, but let me just say it so that everyone can take note of this. When the pandemic hit last year, it is important to note that it was Borno State that was the pace setter, in having the first virtual hearing, a court hearing virtually, and that was on the 27th of April 2020. Yes, most people take note of the fact that Lagos had the first virtual judgment on the 4th of May 2020, but the first hearing was actually in Borno State, and I must say that was a wonderful one. I'm so happy to know that was something that you were, it was under your leadership. And that leads me to a very important question. How can we encourage this more? Why should why does it have to be that a pandemic has to hit before the Nigerian judicial system embraces technology even more? My Lord Justice, it was not supposed to just end there. What are you and the people at the judicial, committee on this matter doing to ensure that a beautiful or vibrant future, bringing law and technology together, especially as regards litigation?
Oh, well, I'm glad you said it's ending, but the answer to this question, are you sure it's going to fit into your time frame? Because it's a long answer. The question itself was so long.
It's fine. It's just do your best to work within maybe 15 minutes maximum. Whatever works
okay,
for
so
you,
let me say it this way. Number one, this issue about who is first, who is second, it's not even important. To be honest, there was nothing like it. Even the judgment was delivered in Borno before Lagos, but I understand I can bear with Lagos if they want to be first, because I like the Lagos citizen. They don't want, they take you to task if you don't perform. I like a lot about Lagos. In fact, some of my friends know me as a Lagosian. I've never, apart from law school, lived in Lagos, but I like it. From the stationery stationery stores, maybe I've never heard of this football team even. So, but be that as it may, let's leave about the fasting issue. Initially, my effort was to get other courts, because of my work, trying to encourage automation. Actually, it's the Supreme Court I wanted to start first to sit online and deliver the judgments that they already had. It's when I couldn't get them, then I wanted Federal High Court to do it. I tried to convince FCT. They wouldn't. It was out of frustration. I don't want to say, okay, why don't we go and do it in Borno? Okay, actually, it was when I realized that all my efforts to convince them to do it, it appeared, somebody raised something, and then it appeared like they thought it was impossible. It's like they didn't believe me all along. And of course, when somebody is telling you do it, he is not even doing it. How do you believe you if you are suspicious? So it was that led me to say, okay, let's go and do it in Borno. and then let's call NTA, record the entire thing, make it a clip and publicize it so that they will know, other judiciaries will know that it's no big deal. I kept telling them it's no big deal, but it's Zoom or WebEx or Teams. You just sit down and talk. But so that is what led me to do it. Otherwise, if it were a race, would have done that long ago. And then now to your answer, to your question. We didn't consider it because of it. If it were so, we wouldn't have done it, because the day we took the decision, it took us 3 days. Immediately this thought came to mind. I called my .comers and the judges, and we sat down and said, okay, how do we do it? How do we format it? In fact, our concern was mostly the way to package it so that we can disseminate it and other judiciaries will know and do it. That is what took time. Otherwise, would have done it the next day after issuing our notices. So it's because we've been doing it all along. We've been on it. And it's not because of COVID. Corona was, unfortunately, it's very sad. Sometimes bad things can be a blessing. It was more like a blessing. Otherwise, everything was in place. And what we have done so far, what we are rolling out, is much more than having an online sitting. That is what we call the low-hanging fruit. It's the easy part. Right now, throughout, since the beginning of this year, I have not seen a single case file, manual file, because we have completely automated. Every case for assignment comes to me, our NCMS, Nigerian Case Management System, which very
That's
good.
impressive.
This I can tell you is the judiciary as far as cases are concerned. Wherever I am, I just open it, see the task pending, which means cases waiting for assignment. I open, I read the contents, I make up my mind as to which court it should go to. I click on the courts drop down, all the courts drop down. I click on the court to assign to. I click, and it's gone. And immediately it pops up on the task pane of the judge and the registrar of that court. They also do the same thing, and then they fix a hearing date. They click on the date. There are two calendars now, the calendar of that day, and then the calendar, projected calendar, where they fix the date on. They agree, the judge says, okay, fix it. The judge does it himself or just tells the registrar to go and fix it for that day. They click, that's it. The bailiff office will now have a task pop up on their window, whereby the system will generate the hearing notice. So, and then populate also the persons to be served, the party to be served. Now, being the first one, now the bailiff will have to print it out and then use that address to go and serve. But as soon as they serve a lawyer and the lawyer enters his appearance, and if he has the legal mail particularly, he endorses it on his listing, that is the end of it. The next one, the judge fixes it, the court fixes it, and it just, system sends notices to all the parties. These are much more important than what is hearing online and all. This is the very easy part. I want to be very frank with people so that by the time they come to know that it's easy, they won't think I was doing shakara for nothing. Honestly, sitting online and all this.
Oh, please do, my Lord Justice. We are actually learning.
That's really the easy part. The real part is the case management system. Now, that done, since we started actually using it in October 19th, I think that was when the first case was uploaded. Since then, I have not seen a single case file. And the judges too. And then when it goes to the court for hearing purposes, because of our mixed listing required, mostly lawyers will come in with physical evidence, documentary and all this. So we have those portable scanners. There's the rolling one and there's the camera type. All the courts have them. It's not. It's very cheap. It's not about money. Very cheap. They're all under $100. So whatever it is, they put it under this thing, they take the photo of it, and that's it. They upload it onto the system. They keep the the physical one that you brought. But as far as the working of it is concerned, we now go on it. So at the end of the case, the last time I did this thing for AGA Africa, and the last time I checked, 57 judgments had been delivered that the judge never saw physical file at all. 57.
Wow.
So far.
That's impressive.
That is actually the judgments that I checked for 1 year. And the importance of it is not just for this thing. Right now, within a minute, I can know how many cases are pending before which court and at what stage. How many started this. This is data. Going forward, this kind of approach to things, I think this will work. No, it can't work. You have to know, it has to be evidence-based. You have to have real accurate, reliable data. And that is what you have.
Yes.
So these are the difficulties. And we have done that. This is not only for Borno. It's available to all the states in Nigeria. It was developed under we developed it under
That's wonderful.
the Nigerian Judicial Council. It's available to all. And then the one that you lawyers would like, the e-filing. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can. Yes, we can, my Lord.
Filing too. That there's a chamber. Well, maybe I shouldn't do any promotion for any chambers. We've done what we call UAT, user acceptance testing, with one chambers in Abuja, whereby we want to make sure that you can work in real life for you, how you organize your chambers and all this, just not filing the case only. So that at the end of this year, any court that wants it can have it. That is the integrated one. But the standalone one, just to file, that one is also available. So if you have a way of piling pressure on any court to adopt it, it's there. Everything is done and finished already. And a lot of the bulk of the money has been spent by agencies to develop it. The courts need to do very little. They just need to do their
So there's already an infrastructure.
Everything is there. They just employ your staff.
Yes.
And even the employment. I assure you, when you go around our courts, without even employing one, just call the staff and ask them. You will see that they already have staff who are qualified, only that the facilities are not there. Every court in my state now, every high court has an IT support staff. Some of them, and then you now call them registrar and you are just giving them manual file. They are even completely frustrated. So we even have the skill. So it's there. We are ready. Whoever tells you that Nigeria is already, or Nigerian courts are not ready for technology, it's just wasting his time. It's there. It's just not using it. So if you compile pressure on anybody, please do so.
We will, my Lord Justice. I can assure you that this young
lawyers, you too.
Yes, now we young lawyers,
since you are running out of time, let me end
an assurance that we young lawyers, my Lord Justice, are
You too.
I'm giving an assurance that we young lawyers are trying to make a difference.
Please do.
Yes, my Lord.
In fact, you have no choice, If you think you are going to practice law the way these present big ones did, you are not even going to be you are not even going to have one case in future. Any lawyer who doesn't start, any young lawyer who doesn't now start to leverage technology, inform himself, and keep abreast as it goes on, very soon, you know, go see clients. You won't even know where the clients are. Anyway, all the clients will be grabbed online. You will be sitting down in an office, and the landlord comes and sacks you. So, yes, you expect your colleagues of these days to be going to some physical place to engage a lawyer. All the activities are online. Abi?
Yes, you're right, my Lord.
Even selling of small trinkets and all these young girls will be selling is on Instagram and all these things. So and that is the same way it's going to be. So lawyers will be engaged online and they'll be making their money online, and people, you'll be sitting down in the office until the landlord sacks you. You find that you have no profession. So please up your tech game. You have no choice. It's not about being or liking it or not liking it. It's compulsory. That is the way it's going to be. So it's not only for judiciary and judges. It's for everybody.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much, my Lord Justice. Believe me, this has been a very, very, very educative and enlightening session. And just as you said, up your tech, game. That's what we're going to talk about next with the next panelist. So thank you so much for your time, my Lord Justice. It was wonderful to have the Chief Justice or the Chief Judge of Borno State on this, session with us, telling us about the career path to becoming a member of the bench. Thank you so much for your time, my Lord. And
I'll listen a while for your next speaker, but then I'll drop off, please. Forgive me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
But I'll listen to the next speaker a little bit before I go. Just ignore me.
Yes, thank you so much. That's fine. Thank you so much, my Lord Justice. Moving on to the next session. The next session can be tagged as the Sports, Entertainment, and Tech session. In short, sets. And just as my Lord Justice has made clear, we need to up our tech game. The speakers for this session are, I think we have 2 out of 3 available. We have Nky Otike-Odibi, the legal executive at Ebony Life Media. And we also have Beverly Agbakoba-Onyejianya, I am sorry if I'm not pronouncing properly. I think I got that because I went to your LinkedIn to even confirm how it's pronounced. Onyejianya. Please kindly confirm if that was properly pronounced. Hi, Beverly. Hi.
Hiya. Hiya. Wait, let me put my okay. Onyejianya.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I really was very, very, I was so much under pressure to make sure I didn't miss it.
It's okay.
Okay, so I was told that we also have here. And I mean, I know the full name is Nkem Chuku, but it was very particular that you preferred the short in Nkem, right?
Nky, actually.
Nky. Okay, thank you so much for that correction also. Nky. Nice to have you, Nky. Nice to have you, Beverly. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I would like to just start by, letting people understand that Nky is the legal executive at Ebony Life Media, and we have Beverly Agbakoba-Onyejianya.
Just say Beverly Agbakoba, it's
a
fine.
Partner at, okay, thank you, Beverly Agbakoba.
You're
who
welcome.
is a partner at Olisa Agbakogba Legal, and also a tech law, sport law, entertainment law expert. Set, as I, put in short earlier.
I'm not an expert though. I'm still a learner.
Space.
Yeah.
The very jovial part of law. They think we're just, I mean, I'm speaking for us, think, are we really serious? Is there really something tangible about it? So what can we say is our drive in this aspect as lawyers, in the tech space, in the entertainment space, or the sports space? What is tangible about our practice? Can we have Nky first?
Okay, that's a very good question because I feel like people actually feel that way. But the example I would give was during the pandemic where, sorry, can you hear me very well?
Yes, we can. Oh, I can.
Okay, during the
I believe
pandemic
every other person can hear you also.
Where everyone was at home and, sticking to family, we couldn't go out as much as we would have liked. What we felt to was entertainment. So Netflix shares skyrocketed. There was so much more conversation around music and how we couldn't go out for our live shows anymore. And I think that period especially showed us how important entertainment was. Okay, so how important entertainment was in our lives.
You've been asked to increase your volume, please.
Okay, let me just try and get my earpiece on. Sorry, just give me a second. So I feel like that period showed us how important entertainment was in our lives, and it should have also shown us that the behind the scenes. Sorry, just give me a second, please.
Problem?
Is this better? Is this better?
Okay, so I think it's still audible for me, but if anyone has any issues, just kindly leave a comment in the chat box. Let's continue the session, please.
Okay, so yes, I think that showed us a lot how important entertainment is for us and how important all the things that go on in the background of entertainment also need to be taken so that we can get the content that we get and we enjoy. So I can only speak for myself, but I'm very sure that the same applies to sports and tech as well. We cannot enjoy the products that we enjoy from entertainment without the lawyers and the business deals that go on behind the scenes. So I think it's very important. Entertainment law is very important. It's a growing area, but it's a very important growing area. We wouldn't have Netflix or the very recent Amazon and MGM deal that we had without entertainment lawyers and entertainment law. So it's a very serious area. Maybe what I would say is because it's not yet as prominent as the other areas of law, a lot of people don't recognize that, but it's still very important.
Yes. Thank you so much, Nky. And before I get personal, because this is actually going to be one of the most personal, and I mean personal because I did my research. Beverly, what's your view on how people view us as tech lawyers or entertainment lawyers, among ourselves as lawyers. And what's your advice to young lawyers?
Okay, I would say, but you've asked me two things. You first of all said, what is the perception within the legal practice of us in tech and sports and entertainment? Personally, I would say that it feels like we've had to prove ourselves. We've had to prove our value, because these are niche practice areas that, that have come about in the last 10 years or so. And in Nigeria, even more recently, I would say perhaps in the last 5 years. So there's that sense of, are you really a lawyer? There's no comparison with like oil and gas. In Nigeria, it's all about oil and gas. It's all about conveyancing, so there has been that element of, subconsciously trying to prove that you are worthy to be called a lawyer, just as, validation, if you call it what you like. So I think our peers are finally seeing that we do have a huge role to play as drivers of the economy, as, we're supporting the growth of new economies, and they're beginning to recognize that. When you get loads of messages from, especially people in university, grads, that perhaps maybe you're doing something right, because typically they want to go where they feel it's more profitable, where they feel there's more opportunity. So I'm thinking to myself, maybe finally people can see what perhaps Nky and I and other people in this industry have seen for a long time, but others didn't see it. Even before we had the practice at Olisa Agbakogba Legal, it was known as fundamentally a maritime law firm. So you can imagine trying to bring something that seems almost jarring. I had to do a lot of work to prove that this was this is and continues to be a viable sector. So I would say the perception is getting better. I don't know if it's necessarily on par. I think I wouldn't go that far, but I
don't think we're there yet.
We're not there yet at all, but we are getting somewhere. Yeah. We're better now than we were in 2017, like when I started this practice. So, we need to just keep, having these conversations. So big thank you, first of all, to Grey Discourse for even having a section on sports and media, this conversation. It's so important because there is more to law than just, the other, construction or even medical, those kind of areas. We don't have enough of those niche areas. So I'm glad that specialization is becoming, we're beginning to see the benefit of specialization. There's that tendency to want to do everything because we know we are living in a tough economy, and it's better to spread the butter across the bread rather than just focusing it in a little area, because everybody wants to eat and survive, right?
Building a niche somewhere.
Building a niche still remains the most important, I would say, the most significant way of building your visibility. And, it's great to have general practitioners, but there's a depth that comes with specialization. There is a depth. Even having a sports, entertainment, and tech practice, I still gravitate a lot more towards sport. I have a team, so we all kind of fit ourselves, across the different areas of the team. But I find myself gravitating more towards sports. So, if I have that label of sports lawyer, it's fine. I don't resent it at all. So yes, specialization is great. It's just about knowing when to specialize. So your second question was, I think I forgot your second question. Can you remind me?
You already started.
Oh, I've already started. Okay.
You started by, I said your advice to young lawyers in, creating that niche for themselves, not getting discouraged. So the first answer is specialization, building a niche. So you can continue from there. What's your advice to young lawyers trying to build a niche in this abstract, or what some people consider abstract?
Okay. So there's a caveat. There's a bit of a caveat with building a niche, because sometimes you don't want to build too early, because it could counter against you. Like, I'll give you just a little bit about me because I don't really have much time. But I started off in banking and capital markets. I started off in compliance, regulatory and compliance. And I did that for over 10 years. Loved it. I still consider myself a compliance professional. And it's so interesting how that has helped my sport, entertainment, and tech practice, because let's not forget, sports is a business industry, entertainment is a type of business industry, and of course tech too. And all the foundations remain the same no matter where you apply them. So the principles of compliance, good governance, these principles all matter in these industries. So sometimes when we look at these industries, we become very narrow-minded. I think like for instance, I know loads of people that think all I do in sports is just football, but I do more than football. There's a lot more to sport law than football. So it's still business, and we need to apply the same principles. So I find that my previous life as a reg and comp professional is really serving me now as a sports lawyer, because it's the same principles. You need to help these, especially in Africa, where sports for the longest time didn't have structure. The governance was not very good. So in your capacity as a lawyer, you have to think about the commercial side. It's not just about being a lawyer and helping them draft contracts. No, you have to be very aware and familiar of the commercial landscape. So important. People love a lawyer that can relate on the commercials. You understand the commercials, you understand the technicalities of the industry you're working in. So I think it's super important that young lawyers see themselves as almost like legal business partners. You're a legal business partner. You're helping support their businesses, helping them build their businesses. I find a lot of the time, I feel like I do more legal and business advisory, because also I guess I'm a bit fortunate to have a little bit of business experience. So I can speak from a very realistic and relatable point of view. And I feel like a lot of the time, people are they don't tend to want to come to, we complain a lot, especially on social media, the whole thing about, oh, you don't go to a lawyer until the S hits the fan or whatever, because they just think lawyers are a cost center. Oh yeah, okay, they're going to give me a huge fee note, right? You're going to give me a massive bill. But the thing is, if we align as business supports, you know what I mean? Then that way they see our value.
Yes.
So yeah,
yes.
I feel like us lawyers, we also need to dig deep and figure out what things do we do? What things are we naturally good at that we can bring to bear as lawyers? So for instance, I'm a podcaster as well. I started podcasting during the lockdown.
Yes.
You're stuck at home, and I've always wanted to podcast because I love talking. I'm sure you can tell, because I'm just like, if you don't stop me, I'll keep going. So I said to myself, I want to project ideas and just, talk. I love talking about, what's going on in society. And so I decided to start podcasting, and I used it as a platform to share voices of Black excellence that you may not normally hear in mainstream media. And it's crazy, the things that have come out from that. You end up realizing that podcasting in itself becomes a type of niche area as well. And that area also needs its own form of legal support. So no matter what interest you have, I tell you, there's always a legal angle to whatever interest you have. There's lawyers out there that have a love and deep appreciation for art, fine art. And as you know, you're hearing about repatriation of artwork from Germany, from UK, they're bringing it back here. How do we protect that artwork? How do we preserve it for future generations? So there'll be some legal bits, succession and keeping these things properly. So believe you me, as lawyers, let's look at ourselves as human beings, real people with real interests. There's a tendency to just box yourself, I'm a lawyer, and that's it. You can bring your natural passions into what you do, which is what I did. I went into entertainment because like Keynote Address is like my childhood friend. And I was like, you know what, I'm starting off this practice, you better help me. So from doing that, I just started getting opened up to entertainment, you know. So it's my natural network. Don't forget, your network is your net worth. Your network is will have gems that you don't even know. So don't look down on your network. Network not just horizontally, or sorry, not just vertically, because there's a tendency to want to network upwards only. Network downwards. Trust me, I've got people that I started off with who were, you know, my juniors, and now they're doing big things. And they're coming to me because they're like, well, you know, I know you. So network upwards, downwards, sideways, everywhere. So I'll just stop there because I know we're short of time.
Thank you so much, Beverly. There's one more question for you, but I want to make sure Nky is also carried along. So I'm going to come back to you on that question. It's very important and it's going to help a lot of people. So Nky, let's come back to you and address a very important thing as an entertainment lawyer. And, you know, particularly you working with film producers and, you know, entertainers. People think entertainment law is just basically IP, intellectual property. And they have zeroed it down to that. You guys are just IP guys, IP guys. Can we please elaborate more on the other values? Because Beverly has made it very clear that there's so much value lawyers can offer in any sphere of life. So besides IP, what else does a lawyer in the entertainment space bring to the table?
This is actually a very good question because it upsets me when people say that. But actually, to be honest, I'll probably only say it once. I only admit it once. But IP is a core part of entertainment law. You cannot be an entertainment lawyer without understanding IP. But it's not all of it. So there's the business angle, there's the contract angle, which is very important. It's, I think, just as important as IP is to entertainment law, contract law is just as important to entertainment law as well. So you cannot just loop it under IP. It requires, there are a lot of technicalities, there are a lot of business practices, international best practices that are part of entertainment law that an IP lawyer just couldn't understand without actual like specific entertainment knowledge. So that's something for us to note, especially for I think older lawyers who just feel like there's not as much, it's not a very viable area. Why don't just look it under IP? Why do you have to have an entirely different practice for entertainment law? So there's a lot to it, especially now because I feel like our industry is growing, especially the film and music industry. Like we see a lot is happening with Afrobeats internationally. That's not something an IP lawyer just with IP knowledge would understand and would be able to excel in. You would need practice, you would need understanding. It's not you don't even learn that overnight. Even I am still learning. So you continually practice, continually learn, and open yourself up to like developing knowledge and getting new information. You cannot just sit back and say, oh, once you understand copyright and trademark, you're good. That's not all that it is. There's a lot more to entertainment law than that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Nky. Just like you and Beverly have made clear, you know, the business of law goes beyond just seeing yourself as one particular set of lawyers, because every aspect, they need a compliance officer, they need a tax advisor. It's sent to, you know, it's intertwined. Our practice, you know, gives us the necessity to spread our different aspects of law and make sure that we're an all-round lawyer. Over to you, Beverly, for the last time. And this is a very important question that a lot of people want to know. It's popular demand. You are a second generation lawyer. The question we have to ask you, Beverly, is this. How did you, very important. Thank you so much for noting that. Third question. Beverly, how did you deal with the shadow, you know, not living in the shadow of your father? I mean, we all know the great Olisa Agbakogba. And how did you handle not being pressured to fit into those big shoes? And what is your advice for a lot of second generation lawyers out there who feel so much pressure as regards, you know, meeting up to the expectation of their parents?
That is a fantastic question, and it's something I always try to address whenever I do these mentoring programs. The truth of the matter is, I did not handle it well in the beginning. I didn't. I tried to run away, which is bad because you can't run away from your fears. You have to face them head on. But in the beginning, I told myself, I'll never be as good as my father. I'll never be a great lawyer, so why bother? So for the first 10 years, about 12 years of my career, I did study law, and I did a master's in commercial law. And then I said, okay, I've done my bit. I'll pack that up. Let me face regulatory and compliance, because I don't know, it's weird. I was so worried about not being good. I just said, let me not even try and practice, because you can see him over there. That's both of us there together. I just ran away. I decided to find something similar to law, but where I can stand on my own 2 feet and say, this is mine. This isn't him. This is me. But you know how life is. Like 8 years down, he goes, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm enjoying my career as a regulatory compliance professional. He goes, no. I want you to come and join me. And I'm like, no, I'll be terrible. He goes, why? Why do you think so? You're your own person. You are you and I am me. And I thought to myself, okay, so I grudgingly studied, did my BVc here. Well, I'd already done it in the UK, then I did it here in law school, sorry. I did my bar 1 and 2 and everything. And I tell you, I started practicing, and I still was very unsure of myself. In fact, I think 6 months into practice, I felt depressed, because I felt like this doesn't suit me. This is a maritime firm, human rights, it just doesn't suit me. And then again, this is where I tell you, there's a saying that the things that you are most interested in, it's not a coincidence, it's for a purpose. I have a football club that I had set up in 2012, completely accidentally, because, okay, so I'd set this up because I'm very curious and I wanted my children to be exposed to sports. So I've been running that on the side for a while. And then one day someone says to me, but why don't you don't you know there's a link between sports and law? And I was like, really? And I went and I did all my research and I realized, wow, this is a niche practice area, because I had already set my mind on, okay, let me go into entertainment law and let me, do that. But then the sports angle came up and I thought, this is fantastic. This is what I'm already used to. This is my world. So that's how I found the confidence to be myself, Amaka Beverly, as opposed to, just working at OAL as the daughter of Olisa. So it's very important that, yes, you're stepping into big shoes, but you know what? Don't look at it as stepping into big shoes. You're merely just following in their footsteps, but you're not stepping into their shoes. You are your own person. You have your own shoes you're wearing, and you're going to build your own legacy. So it's like, I call it the continuation of a legacy, but in a different way. So don't run away from legacy. Legacy is a beautiful thing. And if you have legacy, build on it. Don't run away from it. That's what I say.
Sorry, can I just
thank
say
you
that?
Thank you. Okay, please. I was about to.
Yeah, I feel like I'm part of this session because I've also learned a lot from Amaka. I even have my notes taken from
bless you.
So, and I also wanted to add with regard to following your interests. I felt like I did that in some way because prior to starting my law career, I still am trying to be a writer. So I had this entirely different outside of me, and I wasn't one of those people who knew from the beginning I wanted to be a lawyer. I actually wanted to write, and my parents were like, "You cannot study English in school, so off to law." So that was how I ended up in law school. So after doing that, I wasn't sure what area I wanted to get into, and then I stumbled onto entertainment law, and I was like, "Oh wow, this is a combination of basically all my interests. Say there's law and there's some art, so why not?" So yeah, definitely I feel like people, especially nowadays, we like to sectionalize our interests, or I'm this and then I'm that and then I'm that, so like a multi-hyphenate. But you can be all those things into one. Why? If you there's nothing new under the sun. Anything you're interested in, there's probably someone who's done it before, or someone who's trying to do it. So just find your community and find what you're interested in and just keep at it. And you would see that you would excel with consistency. And also I also find that with niche areas it's easier to rise to the top because there are not as many people. It's not saturated most likely. So you just keep at it, keep on learning. You would just see yourself rising. So that's really, don't run away from your interests.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, I'm taking from both of you that following your passion is important. Yes, following your passion is important, and being consistent with it will make people realize, the naysayers realize that, you know what, this person has actually just become the expert, the thought leader in that aspect. And I was just about to ask you that a very important question, Nky, which is this. There's a tendency for entertainment lawyers to be seen as unserious, and, you know, some people say jiggy lawyers and all that. You know, they have to be a bit playful and a bit, I don't know if the word is lousy and outspoken. How do you advise young lawyers to balance not breaking rules of the professional ethics and still being sound entertainment lawyers? Where do you find that balance in being a good entertainment lawyer to your clients and not necessarily becoming what we would call unbecoming of the profession? Let's put it that way.
Well, I think I'm still finding to balance myself. Okay, I think I'm still finding to balance myself because I'm a bit more introverted. I'm not the type who really likes to be on social media as much, but I find a lot of my colleagues do, and it's very interesting to see. Like I learn from them. I see how they handle the balance between work and being more visible on social media. So I feel like your personality also lends to that. But as long as you're aware of what the RPC says and you understand that you're not doing anything that is unbecoming of a lawyer, you're not doing anything that will be frowned upon. If what you're doing is above board and it is legal and it is actually educating people, then I feel like that's a good place to start. We learn from others, we learn from experiences. So if you feel like you're pushing it and someone says, well, maybe you could handle this a bit better, then you can tweak your methods and keep on going. But generally, I feel like do what you can, because technology is moving really quickly. We cannot attract clients the way we used to before. You can't just sit back and hope that someone walks into your office. You have to go out there and attract the clients yourself. You have to show that you're proficient in this area. So we shouldn't be afraid to go out there and attract the clients, but just make sure that what you're doing is above board always.
Yes, that's very important to note. We must find the balance. And as we round off this session, I'd like you both to just give your advice, your closing remarks, as I've told every other person. But as you give your closing remarks, please, we have asked everyone, apart from my Lord Justice's question, and we have said it's not about trying to water down first class, but does your grade so far, has it affected your opportunities after law school? Because a lot of people think anything beyond a 2-1 and a first class is a death sentence. So in your closing remarks, address how you feel people should handle the results when law school results comes out. So Beverly, why don't you go first?
I'll tell you the truth, I got a 2-2. I got a 2-2, not because I couldn't get a 2-1, but because, very honestly, when I did law, I didn't have the right level of maturity. So I did it again because it was expected of me. So I didn't take it as seriously as I ought to. But luckily for me, I've grown to love it. So what's happened is my natural drive and all that has come through, which has, thank God, helped me, rise above. So what I would say is, look, work hard anyway, okay? Because it's good to work hard. Don't overdo it, but do work hard and put your best. And if for whatever reason you put your best in and you don't get the result, it's not the end of the world. If I could do it, I'm very sure of that, because I feel like people who are coming up are much smarter anyway. So if I could do it, I'm sure, you know, you young ones can do it, but always give your best. And when your best is not good enough, I was stressed, maybe I was tired, maybe I was bored, whatever it is, learn from the failure, because failure is a very good way to rise. We can rise through failure. For me, I considered getting a 2-2 terrible at the time, I'm not going to lie. But I decided rather than dwell on the fact that I got a 2-2, why don't I just do better? So when I did my master's, I got fantastic, you know, I did better. I kept on bettering myself, you know, and the same applies in your career. If you don't get a good appraisal to this year, just work hard, figure out where you're weak. I don't call them weaknesses, I call them development opportunities. So understand what your development opportunities are and work on them. So don't take failure terribly. We can rise through failure. Failure is a part of life. Sometimes we deserve it, but sometimes we don't. But whatever happens, learn from it, and then you rise. So that's my closing. And I actually have to leave. I'm so sorry, but that's my closing out remark. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
this was
much.
amazing.
I will make sure to reach out to you personally, because I just also
and Nky, I will reach out to
so
Nky too, because I love expanding my network. So
Of course, thank you so much.
okay,
Great
take
to meet
care.
you.
Nky, over to you. Thank you so much for your time. Over to you. What's your closing remark?
My closing remark would be just in line with what Beverly said. Just keep at it, really. Especially if you feel like you're interested in a niche area of entertainment law, just keep at it. If you're fresh out of law school and this is what you want to do, maybe you start initially and you don't get the job you want, or you don't get to be in the practice area you want. Do your best at that job, and then show people, oh, I'm interested in this, I'm interested in that. Build your network, let people know these are my interests. And then I feel like this is a weird thing to say, but the stars will actually align for you, because you would be developing yourself, and when the opportunity presents itself, you'll be ready. So you can't just sit back and say, oh, I wanted an entertainment job, but I didn't get it, so let me just go home and sit down. Whatever you find to do that well. I don't, I feel like I still have like ways to go, but I didn't start off right as entertainment
Just
lawyer.
right like this, yeah.
Yes,
You've
exactly.
grown.
I started off in a firm that was called litigation, and I don't, I'm not really into litigation, but that was where I found myself.
Give me, we
But
have
I did my
addressed
best
that
in that
over
job.
and over again
And
today.
then everybody knew that this was what I was interested in. So whenever there was like a little entertainment brief that came, they were like, oh, send to you, that's what she thinks anyway. So develop yourself, develop yourself, build your network, keep at it, and then follow the right people as well. They will lead you to the jobs. If you're interested in a particular area, follow people who are in that area. Maybe that's what they do, that's what they're interested in. They're the ones feeding out the knowledge. Follow them. People like, if you're interested in entertainment law, follow people like Akinyemi Law. He's always posting like news on entertainment law. Follow people who are in jobs that you would like to
seems to be the top lawyer.
Just follow them so you can learn from them. And then maybe you never know what will happen one day, maybe through an interaction or something. Yes, he's great. So follow people like that, and you'll find yourself where you need to be. Really, just keep at it. Whatever you're doing, just do that great thing.
Thank you so much, Nky. And I'll make sure to also keep in touch, because I can see that you guys are, you know, my orgas at the top, and I need to make sure to keep in touch. Thank you so much for your time, Nky, and I would definitely reach out to you. Yeah, this was a wonderful session. Take care.
Take care, bye.
We're rounding off today's session with the last, bye, Nky, with the last speaker, and this is a very close one for me. So I'm going to have to be a bit informal at this moment. Just give me a moment, because this is my guy. So I'm not going to even, I've tried. Just give me a moment, please. So we are having the final speaker for today. This is my good friend, Akpobome. AKP for short. We were together in Kano campus some years back, so this is my time. Okay, I'm rolling my sleeves because I mean this is a very informative. Nobody should come and even understand. I beg. This is me and my guy. Let's talk.
Hello, Josh.
Now,
how you doing?
What is so interesting about AKP? I'm good. Let me finish whining you. Don't interrupt me. What's so interesting about AKP is the fact that back in school, back in law school, he was always that cool, easygoing guy, very sound guy, right? But I did not see this coming. Do you know that ever since we finished law school, AKP has been in practice, yes, but in a very interesting part most people don't take note of, freelancing. Now, as a tech lawyer, I have some experience with freelancing. No doubt about it. I have a younger brother who finished from Covenant engineering and is a freelancer. While he's currently, job hunting, freelancing is what is keeping him alive and it's fine. But I personally tried it out sometime during the pandemic and I realized that because of jurisdictional differences and all that, and I just didn't think I could sit down and have that patience to work with people from other parts of the globe. But to hear that AKP has made a fortune from freelancing, I had to say today I will sit down and take masterclass. See, I have my notes here. I'm ready to take notes. Please, AKP, you have the floor. How did you succeed where others might have failed? Others being me. I failed at it. I failed at freelancing. So AKP, please, let's have a very one-on-one session right now. How did you succeed at this?
Josh, first I'll say good evening and I'm happy to be here. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Great to see you again.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I can hear you very much clearly.
Okay. I would like to start with a disclaimer. Well, until proven otherwise, no one has really failed when it comes to freelancing. It's a journey that you start and you keep going at it. And like the other speakers have said, in everything that you do, the core values of consistency and hard work will always carry you far. I'd like to say that I'd also like to say that while you may have started with saying I have built a small fortune, I'm still looking up to you guys. And like Mr. Malachy Odo said, the family must be fed and bills must be paid.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that is how I started freelancing really. So I had just come out of law school in 2018. I prepared my initial CV, the very first CV I ever had, and all I could see was gaps. I could see I had a 2-1 in the university. I had relatively good grades in my O level. I had a 2-1 in law school, which I would find out eventually. I didn't know that at the time. I was still waiting on my results. And I had no internship experience. I had no externship experience apart from the ones we got from our chamber and court attachment. So I was considering putting off my service year so I could do an internship with a firm in Lagos. But around the time, I remember that in 2016, I had opened an account on a platform called Upwork, and it had been lying fallow. So I picked up my PC one day, searched for jobs. I found a few that I was interested in, applied. A few days later, I had an interview over a phone call. I got a job. The person was
okay. So some people are letting me know that they can't hear you very well, AKP. Maybe you have to speak up. I think because of your background, it's a bit echoey. So people are letting me know that you're not so audible.
Okay, is this any better now?
I'm very sure you'll correct that. Okay, this is clearly better. This is far much better. Let's go.
My apologies. Yes.
No problem. Somebody said that. Somebody said that hope is not that you are using strategy not to let us hear you because we don't want you to hide any secrets.
No, not at all.
We want you to open up. As some people say in this generation, cut the soap for us. Cut soap.
There's no soap. We're all looking on God. But okay, like I was saying, I realized I didn't have any experience in law firms. I had fallen into the trap that many of us law students fall into, where you focus on your grades. You don't really think about life after school. You don't think of doing any internships. So that was what turned me back to Upwork, the freelancing platform platform I'm still on right now. So I went back to my account, like I said, applied for a few jobs. I got one after an interview over a phone call, and I have been, like you said, the jurisdictions are different. This firm I'm talking with, that I work with, it's a firm in Missouri in the USA, and most other jobs you would find would also be, I imagine the questions will taper into all of those areas later, but most of the jobs you would find will be jobs in USA, UK, Canada. So it can be very disconcerting at first, but again, like Malachy Odo said, the principles of hard work and consistency would still be what will serve you well, even in the world of freelancing. So that's like a rundown of how I got into freelancing. It's been a snowball from there, from opportunities to opportunities. So, yes.
Yeah, I think it's very noteworthy that you were very honest about the fact that you looked at your CV and you looked at the conditions of how any sound law firm might just, water down your potential because they look at your CV and they think, you don't have much to offer us. And I like the fact that you see the Nigerian spirit is an innovative spirit and resilient spirit. You don't let anything let us go down. So where I was thinking, freelancing is not my, some months later, I launched Allen & Brooks with a couple of partners and we're doing fine after 10 months where I'm going to make sure to round off today's session with just giving you guys a story of how Allen & Brooks came and what I would advise young lawyers to do in the aspect of setting up a firm. I will do that. But in freelancing for you, I want you to first address this issue of jurisdiction. How are you servicing clients in the US? Not even in the UK. UK is understandable because we are all both under Commonwealth. But what are you offering US clients? That's where I want to start with.
Okay, that is also a popular misconception that the UK is not a common law, the US is not a common law country. It also is. So yes, while there are differences in the laws everywhere you go, even in other common law countries, even in the UK, like you said, you still find key differences. The secret would be to sort of try to unlearn many of the things that you have hardwired into your head. For instance, I was just talking to Zikora, a friend of ours, the other day, and we're talking about affidavits, how to frame affidavits. We have all mastered in the Edo State Judicial Division holding at yes. Those things are hardwired.
Yes. We can even recite it offhand. Sorry.
Yes. So, but when you get exposed to a new jurisdiction, you have to come to terms with the fact that okay, this is a new jurisdiction. The laws are slightly different, even though they still fall under the same principles of torts, criminal law, and all of those. So you'd have to read court rules. I don't think that the law school really wanted to teach us to just learn only the rules that are in the high courts that are in Nigeria. They wanted to expose us. Whether they succeeded or not is another matter entirely, but they wanted to expose us to law everywhere, where you could pick up court rules, you could study procedure, you could learn key differences, identify similarities and differences, and then learn what you need to learn, pick up skills that you need to pick up. But I'd also be open and say that I've been fortunate to work with a law firm that was open to training all of their staff. So every week we have a training session where they pick an area of the law and a lawyer or an associate or a partner grooms us all on it and brings us up to speed. So it could be, for instance, where the court where a matter will be filed. Now, I may have had struggles myself, not having gone through law school in Missouri, but when my senior partner or my principal, as the case may be, is telling me that, okay, these are the things to look out for to determine where a case will be filed, it helps a lot. Personal study, of course, if you are going to build a career in freelancing, Google has to be your friend. You have to study everything that you can.
Of course.
So there is the openness to being coached, being trained, understanding that what you know is just the tip of an iceberg and there's a lot of knowledge out there, and being open to learning those things, whatever it takes. Those are things that help with the jurisdictional differences that one would ordinarily encounter when you start a freelancing career. And also, there are free resources that would help. I had to take a class on laws.
Like which ones?
EDX, for instance, EDX, which has an affiliation with Harvard, they have short courses on law of contracts, programming for lawyers, things like that. Things that you can learn the skills, and those short courses are sometimes free, although you can decide to pay if you want a certification at the end of the day. But EDX, HubSpot Academy, those are two sites that I found a lot of resources that have helped me. So I try to take courses when the opportunity presents itself, whenever I'm less busy. And I found a lot of help from resources like that. So HubSpot Academy, EDX, and there are several others. A quick Google search will show you resources available if you want to learn the law in other jurisdictions.
Thank you so much for that, AKP. I think one thing I picked from this is that you must be open-minded and you must be willing to learn newer skills, personal skills. As I'd said a couple of times earlier today, we can't leave law school and university being closed-minded and entitled to life. We have to be students of life. So I like the fact that you were willing to learn new things. And you're right, EDX and Coursera, Hotspot, they are all platforms that help you to grow and expand your horizon. Now, another question I have to ask is this: pricing. Because I understand, as I told you earlier, my younger brother is, a freelancer. He works majorly with freelance and Fiverr. So freelancer and Fiverr. So how do you price to get, it's a competitive space. So you are offering your services as a lawyer, and Indian is offering a service as a lawyer, and American is offering a service as a lawyer, EOs are service as a lawyer. All of you are trying to get the same market. How do you price? How do you approach the issue of pricing? And I know you guys earn in foreign dollars, you're not earning in Naira. I know that. It's a foreign currency thing. So how do you price?
Okay, well, pricing, like several other key parts of freelancing, would depend on the platform that you are on. So you mentioned a few platforms. You mentioned Fiverr, you mentioned freelancer.com, yes, yeah. And there's Upwork, which is where I'm on. Now, many of these have a minimum price point. So on Upwork, for instance, no matter the job that you render, you cannot earn anything below $3.5 an hour. So the payments are mostly hourly, on an hourly basis. Then there are fixed price points where you complete a project and then you get paid as you negotiate. So the first thing I would say about pricing, if you're a first timer to freelancing, understand that your priority is to plant your feet there, not necessarily to make the most money at first. So funny story, I had a friend who opened an Upwork account and his initial starting price was $100 an hour and he never got a job. And then he kept telling me, there are no jobs. So we reviewed his profile together and I advised him to take it down to 3.75 first, because you don't have a job. There's nothing on your profile that you can deliver on the expectations and the deliverables that prospective clients would have. So what you need to do is start at an entry level, start as small as you can, and then deliver on a job, get a good review, so that when people are looking to employ you the next time, they're looking at your profile and they're saying, oh, you've earned a few $100s and you got a 5-star review for so-and-so job. It's an indication that you are trustworthy. It's an indication that you can do what needs to be done. It's an indication that you can be trusted with clients' money. So when you now have an identity for yourself, it's a good thing that platforms like Upwork have a job success score. So the more jobs you do and you do well, the higher your job success score. By the time you hold 100% job success rating for a long time, you become top rated. Now, when you are top rated, you can set your pricing as high as you want to go. It's just like in a real life job, because the only difference is that freelancing involves virtual jobs. In real life jobs, no one starts as an entry level lawyer and expects to earn as much as a senior partner or a principal partner. You start small as you envisage would be enough to sustain you on a job. So the major things you need money for when you are working as a freelancer, the things you cannot run away from, your data, your power, your personal computer, those are your main gear. So whatever can give you this, give you some money for the time and effort you are putting into a job, you can start from there. And the good thing about freelancing is that it's flexible. You can do a job up to a certain time and then decide that you want to end the job and move on to another gig. But you have to start somewhere, be willing to start small and understand that you have to grow gradually.
Thank you so much for that, AKP. I like the fact that you made it not about greed, but about building consistency. So you can't start big and expect people who don't know you, who don't see any references from any other person, who don't see any ratings to just give you $100 per hour. It's crazy. So you're right, build a reputation on these online platforms. That's a very important thing. The last question I want to note is this, and it's a more personal question because we are all out to, be honest and open. Has this ever made you feel less of a lawyer, being a freelancer? Have you ever felt a sense of, you are not practicing law? Has anybody given you that vibe? Because I have to ask, because we can be very pompous as lawyers. We feel like if you're not in a court, if you're not in a mortar, the idea of a four-wall building as a lawyer in a law firm, you're not practicing. If you're not in court, you are basically a very lawyer. How does that make you feel, and how have you been able to make sure you don't look down on yourself or you don't allow people to look down on you? And if that's not even the case, let us know.
Okay, so first of all, in preparing for this interview, I wrote down a few notes, and one of the things I wrote was the disadvantages that come with freelancing, and you can't run away from it.
Then.
Yes, the first disadvantage I would like to talk about is the way that we conceive of work as people generally. Now, one of the problems with the pandemic was most people those who were still working, had to work from home. And we understood the importance of having an office when you had to work from home, when you had children running around, you had errands to run that would clash with your work time. We didn't really feel like we were working, and that's justifiable. When we think of work, a lot of things goes into it. We think of the commute to and fro, we think of sitting at a desk, and yes, those are things that freelancing may take away from you. But some of the most successful freelancers I know, they combat this by having a hybrid between freelancing and real work. They get an office, like an actual workspace, and it helps their productivity. Because whether we like it or not, your productivity improves when you know you have a dedicated space to work at. You are not working from your dining table. You have a room, even if it's a home office, you have an office in your home where you work. It improves productivity. So it's not far-fetched when you hear people think, can you really be a lawyer and work from home? It's a justifiable question. And the answer is, while you can, you should understand that it's going to be tasking on your productivity. So like I said, if you feel like you cannot really work from home the way we traditionally define working from home, get an office space, make it your office, go there back and forth and do your work. The next thing that you mentioned is whether it makes me feel any less like a lawyer. The fact of the matter is, I'm very sure if non-litigation lawyers are honest, they get that question too. You never go to court. You never wear your wig and gown. Are you sure you are really a lawyer? And the answer is yes, you are a lawyer. You are just a lawyer in a different area. So you have to come to terms with that. If you are freelancing as a lawyer, you are being a lawyer that does something different. That said, I'll be honest with you and tell you that sometimes when you think of your career projection, it can seem like a lateral career move or even a horizontal career move, because you're not licensed to practice in many of these jurisdictions, so you cannot enter the courtroom. But everything short of that, everything else that a lawyer does, you do. you could conduct interviews, you could interface with clients, you could draft. And like my lord was saying when he talked about the Nigerian case management system, that's a beauty of most jurisdictions abroad. They have electronic filing systems where anybody from anywhere in the world, I usually do it. You can draft a pleading, draft a legal process, e-file it, and it will be beautiful if my lord's vision is achieved in Nigeria, and every state has.
It seems so seamless. It seems so,
it's
so seamless.
very,
why do we like stress?
Right, and because they have that opportunity there, it creates an avenue for us lawyers who are in the freelancing space. So you could function, you could do, like I said before, you could do everything a lawyer would do short of going into the courtroom. And it may seem like a lateral or a horizontal move because you are not going into the courtroom, you are not wearing your wig and gown, you are not flexing.
It's something, yes.
But it's just for you to understand that you are doing something different. And what you lose in all these disadvantages, you gain in certain advantages. The most popular advantage, which I would like to end this question on, is the currency, the currency and conversion advantages. So even if you are earning 3.75, which is the minimum salary you could earn on a platform like Upwork, that's an hour. If you work 8 hours a day, you do the multiplication, and then at the end of the week or month, as the case may be, you do the multiplication from dollar to naira, and then you see that maybe what you are losing in not wearing, you are probably gaining in the money that hits your account at the end of the month. And while money is not everything,
and you're making almost par to what some standard lawyers are making.
Yes, and if you are
that's impressive.
Up your game and gain more and more skills, you could earn even more than some lawyers earn. So it's neither here nor there as far as whether or not you remain a lawyer is concerned.
Yeah. In rounding off everything we have discussed today, the litigators versus the other people, I would just like to say this, and this is me also just conversing with you. It's important that we note that we are not pushing for litigation or this other one or this other one on litigation. It's not versus. It's actually a thing of all-round knowledge. I have always said it that the kind of firm I and my colleagues are trying to build is a firm that builds commercially aware lawyers. Just like most of our guests today have talked about it, business is important. So we realize that there's a very big gap and deficiency in the society, not even just law or professionals. Imagine a doctor trying to run an hospital, but all he knows how to do is save lives. He doesn't understand the administration of business savviness that needs to run the actual hospital. That is one of the services that we are trying to offer in advisory and legal business advice, which is what I would like to round off on. If I was to round off, we need to grow as lawyers in understanding that law has gone beyond what the law says, what the sections of a particular statute or constitution says. We as lawyers need to grow our ability to be able to solve problems that go beyond section 101 or section 201. See what you're doing on Upwork. It's solving someone's problem at a Atlantic. I mean, you don't even know some of the people you're working with. I'm telling you. And one of my clients just the other day worked with a developer all the way in Russia, a software developer using Fiverr, using Freelancer in Russia. I was quite impressed at the fact that he was willing to do that. But I was conversing with the lawyer on the grounds of, with the software developer on the grounds of, I will need you to sign an NDA for my clients and all that. I had to converse with him just for us to make sure we have him agree to an NDA. But you could see how we were able to connect with someone we have never met before. So in rounding off this session, AKP, what is your advice for lawyers all around, just buttressing this point of being all around lawyers? How do you advise we stay flexible? Because the profession doesn't really teach flexibility. Okay. Let's round off on that note and call it a day and prepare for tomorrow's session.
First of all, that you determine what your strengths and your weaknesses are. If you find that you are more inclined towards one area. If it's litigation, then be the best you can be at litigation. If it's ADR, be the best you can be at ADR. But by all means, be honest with your be honest with yourself about your strengths and about your shortcomings, and understand that being in one area doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be pigeonholed there forever. If the opportunity presents itself tomorrow and I'm inclined towards it, I could pursue another opportunity. So when, like they always say, when you are serving, like the advice, when you are serving, do as much of the law as you can, which is why when I was serving, I did litigation for a year. And determine if that's what you want to do. If it's not what you want to do, then find out that the sky is so wide for lawyers. There's so many things that we can do if we are willing. Now, if you decide that freelancing is something you want to try your hands on, then do it as something you want to try your hands on. The fact that you're a freelancer doesn't mean you have to throw your wig and gown away. The fact that you are a freelancer doesn't mean you can't do litigation, doesn't mean you can't do ADR. Just explore as much as you can, find a niche for yourself, be true to yourself and your ideals. If something is not working, try something else. And if you find that you like freelancing, develop yourself at it. That's how I would say that.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think one thing that we have heard over and over again today is follow your passion. But in following your passion, be ready to pay the price. Be ready to pay the price. Okay, following your passion might not equate survival or money. But if you decide that you want to follow that passion, be ready to pay the price of patience and sacrifice. It might not be easy, but if you stick to it, you can become the thought leader in that aspect. For example, I am very particular about agribusiness. I want to be an agricultural lawyer or a food lawyer, as some people might call it. In the nearest future, I want to be one of those people that stand out to speak for support the players in the agri space. It's a very, very new space, but it exists. So I must be willing to pay the price that most people will say, what are you saying now? But in the next 5 to 10 years, I must have built myself, my personal skills, my network to the point where I am actually to be reckoned with when you talk about agriculture and food law in Nigeria. So that's what I believe we can round off on. At this point, I would like to just hand over to Zikora, one of the organizers, so we can, get the housekeeping rules for tomorrow's session. Thank you so much, AKP. And as per my guy now, we'll talk after to, discuss some, personal one-on-one. Dollar is important. That's been made. Zikora, over to you.
Okay, so thank you very much for joining us. Thank you to the moderator. Thank you, Joshua, for coming around. I really appreciate your presence, and I really appreciate your joining us to moderate this session. And thank you to all the participants. I know that a lot of them are still here and some have left. We really appreciate them. I'm going to try to call all of them. Meanwhile, if you're still around, please make sure that you tune in for tomorrow. We're having the partner of Bloomfield Law Practice. We're having the founder and lead partner for Deal HQ Partners. And we're also having someone from Banwo and Igodalo for the first session. We're having a session tomorrow on blockchain and smart contracts. That's by Senator Ihenye. And then finally, we're having a free CV masterclass. So if you're having challenges with setting up your CV or finding the best time to apply, then please don't miss Emmanuel Faith's session tomorrow. I really appreciate everybody that took out time to be part of the event today. We apologize for all the technical difficulties that we had. It was all our fault, and we will try to do better next time. We take full responsibility and we really apologize. But thank you very much for being around and being patient with us. Till we meet tomorrow, I don't want to take much of your time. So have a great evening. Good night.
Good day, everyone.
Good night.